Hello and good evening, everybody. It's me, Councillor James Ball, on the Councillor James Ball channel, YouTube channel, The Struggle UK. And today, the usual vlog, but marking a special occasion because today marks the year to the day that the first national lockdown was called in on March the 23rd, 2020. It is currently, let's have a look on my phone, it is currently approaching 11:30 at night, so I've been trying to find time to make this vlog all day, but it's been another busy one. So I was determined to fit this in before I went off to the land of Nod. I've already climbed the wooden hills to Bedfordshire, so as my grandma used to say. So forgive me if I keep my voice down a little bit, because people who are in the adjacent room already asleep. So yeah, I don't want to wake them up. But so yeah, a year to the day. Last year that lockdown was called, which means that for me and my family, we've been shut in this house for 1 year and 1 week, because we started our lockdown exactly a week before. Obviously we didn't know when lockdown was going to be called, but we decided to do that anyway. Basically, with all the news at the time, and all the uncertainty, yeah, 1 year, 1 week, and I had my jab, my COVID jab, last week, about a week and a half ago now. Unfortunately for me, I did suffer from some of the side effects that they warn you about, particularly fatigue and tiredness, which lasted quite a while. I think it lasted a while for me because I'd already had a bit of picked up a bit of a stomach bug from somewhere just before I got the jab, so I think it was a bit of a double whammy, bit of a salt of law really. But feeling okay now, and obviously, hopefully, touch wood, 60 to 70% immunised against the worst effects of COVID if I contract it. Yeah, I've found time to maybe, like many of you, keep up with or really delve into how some of the jabs work, how they were produced, what they actually do, what the data is, because obviously there's new data constantly coming up really from researchers. This has been more people have the COVID jabs, about the efficacy, they call it, effectiveness of each different jab's ability to protect you from the worst symptoms of the SARS-CoV virus. I had, probably like most people now in the UK, I had the AstraZeneca jab, the first one. There's a second dose, if you don't know about it, which is you get about 3 months later, basically, which is supposed to bump you up to around about, depends on the individual course, but around about, they think now about 90% protection against hospitalisation or death, basically, if you do contract the virus. So AstraZeneca for me, fascinating, finding out about how they actually made it, produced it, and yeah, which I hadn't known about before, but it's testament, I think, to how lucky we are, really how lucky we are to live now at this moment, because 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, the chances of arriving and being able to engineer a vaccine to combat the worst effects of a new virus like COVID that comes along every now and again and causes such devastation, particularly in certain age groups and other groups, connected with ill health. The chances of almost any time before now of arriving at a vaccine within a year just wouldn't have happened, because we didn't have the technology until very recently to do this. Of course, it's a combination of extremely quick, powerful computing technology for the testing, computers and ways of sampling different vaccines and testing them out and everything, but also the gene technology, and being able to literally read the DNA of the SARS-CoV virus, know which parts, have the knowledge to know which parts do what, perform which functions within the virus itself, and then just selecting the part of the code out of the COVID virus to place into what is effectively a benign chimpanzee cold virus, which isn't harmful to us, basically, but it makes the chimpanzee's cold virus mimic the physical features of a COVID virus, so that our antibodies, our immune systems, can sort of practice, if you like, get used to recognising a more benign version of the COVID virus, a safer version. Really fascinating, to be honest, to me personally. But I'm one of these people who loves technology, loves finding out about things. I sort of have to know how things work. I'm never content just to know that things work or there's a vaccine. I want to know how, it works. I suppose that's why I've ended up spending, a good portion of my adult life spending it in further education and higher education in particular, because I just like to know things, really. Which I suppose is no bad thing, is it? So, just remarkable that here we are, a year on, and I can't want to say it now, but it was half the adults. I think the reporting is half the adults in the adult population in the UK had either one, at least the first shot of one or other vaccine. So that's amazing. Obviously, there are quite a few different vaccines using slightly different technologies now being rolled out all over the world. Of course, I live here in Wales. I'm a community councillor here in Wales. But of course, I'm someone who cares about my fellow man, my brothers and sisters all over the world. So obviously, I've been extremely concerned to hear about, but not surprised, unfortunately, to hear and read about the lag, the backlog, the issues of getting vaccinations to poorer parts of the world, poorer countries. I don't think anyone's shocked by that, are they, really? And all the sort of goings on at the minute with between the EU and the UK over the AstraZeneca vaccine and all this sort of stuff. A lot of that is, of course, political posturing, unfortunately, political sort of nonsense really at play, which will undoubtedly put lives at risk, particularly in the European Union, and unfortunately particularly in some of the poorer countries within the Union, which is just unforgivable of any politician to do. Absolutely unforgivable. I'd be saying that if that was politicians here. I mean, of course, here we've had today during the minute silence, midday. Just before that, the news. Obviously, I was listening to Classic FM while I was doing my sort of morning chores and drying up and sorting out my recycling and getting the bins back in because it was bin day. It's the glamorous life I lead. Just getting picking it back round. But yeah, it's 100. I mean, I hadn't really kept track, but the official figure is 126,000 extra deaths over the year, attributed directly to COVID. And as I sort of stood and listened to that, I thought, well, I wonder what the figure is then for deaths attributed to COVID and deaths that have occurred due to COVID, due to the effects of COVID, and the lockdown and the restrictions and the hospitals being sort of overwhelmed at certain times on the people that just couldn't get the treatment, couldn't get the treatment for cardiac treatment, cancer treatment, all sorts of things. I mean, I personally know of at least 2 or 3 people who have died, unfortunately, possibly before their time because they couldn't get the treatment they needed. And I'm sure all over the country that's going to be the case. I bumped into someone today. In fact, what was nice today was, and the last time, because what I have been able to do is literally, because I'm over the road from a supermarket, so my only thing I've been able to do outside the house is pop over there when I felt safe enough with my mask and my sanitizer and everything, to get bits we have to get, bread, milk, things like that. And the last time I did it, which was Saturday, bumped into a couple of people I haven't seen for a year, which was lovely to see them and have a chat, distance of course. And then this morning I went over and bumped into 3 other lots of people I haven't seen for a year, and had a nice sort of distant but quick chat, which was fantastic, to see people you haven't actually seen for all that time. It sort of made me feel like normal life was coming, starting to come back. So that was lovely. And of course, spring has sprung, isn't it, now, since my last vlog? So spring is officially here again. Fantastic. It's lighter in the evenings now. Still, it's light at 6 o'clock. It's light at 6 in the morning. That always does wonders for me. I don't know about you, always does wonders for me. And my sort of, enthusiasm for the day and enthusiasm for life. Mr. Blue Sky. As Jeff Lynne and the Fantastic ELO was saying, Mr. Blue Sky's coming back, has returned. So, feeling optimistic, feeling a bit stronger. Do you know what I mean? Mentally, physically, and I hope you are. Wherever you are. I hope you're feeling a bit more optimistic and better about the next few months and going into the next year. Do you know what I think the key for me over the last 3-4 months, particularly over the winter months, and the end of last year, the key for me has been I've stopped watching the news. I don't watch the news anymore. I used to be one for watching all, the whole news night, question time, and the news and all of it really. And I realised that probably towards the end of last year that none of it was helping. It was only making things worse. you know? I wasn't getting clear information anyway, so I thought, what's the point in watching and listening? It's always contradictory information. You hear one thing one day, and then you go out to go shopping and see the front of the newspapers that said something else, and so you don't get a clear picture of what's really going on, do you? Anyway, and it's all. I don't personally. I've got to the stage where I just don't believe, or I know I can't take at face value anything, anything, particularly anything I see on the front of a newspaper. But now the television news is just as bad. Really, I just can't believe some radio news, okay, but I just don't see the point in it anymore. I don't know if you're like me. I don't know if you feel the same. I don't know if you've been following the same policy, which is just not to watch it. But it's done me wonders, to be honest. My mum said to me today, she said, I don't know where we're supposed to be at in Wales with the sort of stay-at-home stuff and lockdown and everything and restrictions. And I said, to be honest, for the first time, I don't know either. I haven't got a clue, to be honest. I don't know. I've heard round and about that things are changing slowly and becoming up. I don't know when things are taking effect. I don't know exactly what. The only thing I know about is that I heard that garden centres can reopen in Wales. I don't know when that is, or if that's happened already, and that supermarkets can start selling non-essential items again. Again, I don't know when from, or if that's already started. But I don't really know. I don't know. I tell you what, there's been a lot of confusion, I think, over the year, and still is. Because if you watch the national news channels, especially in the morning and things, BBC, Good Morning Wales, it's like, of course, all the national news you get is Boris Johnson says this and Matt Hancock says that about this restrictions here being lifted on this or that or whatever. And I think most people, or a good portion of people, particularly here, just never realised that that's in England. Because we live in Wales with devolved government, most of that stuff didn't apply here. We had to wait for whatever the Welsh government said was going to apply here. Because, of course, in devolved nations, the parliaments have power over policing, have power over education, and have power over health. And of course, this is a health issue, national health issue. So in Wales, same as Scotland, which is why why you've had differing approaches in Wales, Scotland, and England. So I think more people have become aware that you can't get your news from, or you can't take the news from the national channels, because they've often not done a very good job of explaining to people that no, this is what's happening in England mostly. This isn't what's happening in Wales or Scotland, unless they just happen to have agreed on the same timetabling with Boris Johnson. And for political reasons, of course, when you've got the SNP in Scotland, you've got Welsh Labour in charge in Wales, and you've got the Conservatives in charge in England. Effectively, there's going to be a bit of political game playing, of course, because they're trying to sort of outdo each other in the press about who's got the best strategy for protecting people and coming out of lockdown, but yet at the same time saving businesses and things. So yeah, that's been interesting. But I think more people have become aware that there are different sets of drums beating in different parts of the UK. Of course, not to forget Northern Ireland as well, Stormont. So it's been. I think this has highlighted the very complicated and complex political and devolved nature of Britain now for a lot of people who I think weren't fully aware of how complex it is. So going forward, as I say, I'm more optimistic now that summer's coming. I mean, there's news today of Johnson that I saw warning of a third lockdown at some point. If it happens, it happens. What can you do? Again, I don't know if it'll be in England, or I'm sure if it happened in England, it'd have to happen in the other regions as well for that to work for us all. So let's hope not for quite a while, at least. So we can get out there and enjoy something of life after all this time. But yeah, for me now, I think I'm just worrying about people and the sort of now knock-on effects of people that have lost their jobs during all of this, lost their businesses. So many people have unfortunately lost their relationships, marriages, divorce. Those just awful stories you hear. People suffering from long COVID. I think that's a bit of a story that's going to become more pushed to the fore as time goes on, and we have more reports of more people suffering from the effects of COVID on their organs and things, and I think that's becoming more apparent now, but I think it'll become even more apparent as the next 6 months, a year, and years go on, unfortunately. Do you feel you've been suffering or still suffering from long COVID and the symptoms of COVID if you had it earlier in the past year at some time? I know of a few people who certainly are struggling physically at the minute, have had COVID, and are starting to believe the problems they're continuing to face, and as are their doctors actually, from what they tell me, continuing to face are as a result of COVID lingering or what COVID's done to them when they had it. So I think that unfortunately, I think that will be a greater unfolding story for many people. So I hope not, but I fear it might be. So anyway, that's gone 20 minutes already. So yeah, that's a year down, a year gone. Let's hope that next year, March 23rd, 2021 to March 23rd, 2022 is going to be very different and better for most of us. So that's my wish from me to you. That's my wish for me and mine. And I'll see you next time. Stay safe, take care, and ciao for now.